Okay, gentlemen. Now we will start the second module for CCSP. The second module for CCSP, just to refresh your mind that we have 6 modules. The second module, it will be cloud data security. Now we will start to concentrate on the data security. How you can protect your data. What are the techniques for protecting your data? We will cover a lot of topics. What are the different type of cloud data storage, design and apply security strategies, data security strategies, data protection, and what are the security concepts related to the data hosting in the cloud computing. Now we will start the module for the cloud data storage. And in the cloud data storage, before doing anything or speaking about anything, gentlemen, it is very important to understand the data lifecycle and what are the security requirements in each cycle. This is a very important point. This is a very important point. I mean that we have to understand what are the different phases in the data life cycle and what will be the security controls. Okay, to understand this one, we have to understand how this it will work. Let's open the whiteboard. I want to type a lot of things here. First phase in the data life cycle, it is called create. This is the creation of the data. This is the creation of the data. This phase, it is very important. This phase is very important. First of all, you have to understand something, gentlemen. It is very important for the exam. Maybe not for practical life, but for the exam. You have to understand when we are saying create, this phase, it has 2 different types of data. It may be new data, new created data, or modified data. If you are doing modification for a data, if you have a database with a specific record and you make some modification in this record, then it is considered in the create phase. It is considered in the create phase. Why create phase? It is very important. Create phase, it's very important because you have to define what is the data classification here. You have to define the data classification here. And this, it will make any difference? Of course, it will make any difference. It will make a lot of differences, not one difference only. Why? Let's think about, gentlemen. You have 2 pieces of information. For example, salary, Excel sheet, and you have product flyer. Of course, do you think that both of them have the same criticality level for the organization?
No.
Why? Why it's not?
Different department, different input.
No, I don't care about the bonus and all this stuff. But here it has the salary of the staff. This is for information, it's confidential. This public, this is public. It's product flight. I want to distribute it for all the customer to know the product flight. Since this one it's confidential, then this means that I may need to store on hard disk with encryption. But here, no encryption. I will leave it as is, no changes at all. Also, I may need here, this is very important, I need a redundancy. I may need a backup for it. Here, no backup, I don't care. If I lose it, this it's okay. Yani, the business, it will not be affected or whatever. Then, as you can see, when I create, this is very important. You have to understand in this phase, in the create, you have to define the data classification. And the data classification, it will define a lot of other actions which you have to take it related to the data. For example, if I want to say no share, I will not be able to share this outside the organization. This, it will be shared. Look here, all the decisions are totally different, 180-degree different. It will not make any difference. It will not make any difference at all for me. Why? Because this depends upon the classification of the data. If it's classified as critical, it should be confidential. If it's confidential, it should be encrypted. I must have a backup for it. Outside, no one should be use it, and so on. Also, there is one important point. Here, I need access control for it. No access control. With a public data, anyone he can read it. But here, I need the authentication and authorization to read it. Not all the people they will be able to read it. And not all the people who read it, they will have the permission to delete or change or anything. Then, in phase number one, the most important thing which you have to remember that you have to define the data classification. Okay. Phase number two, it is the store. Of course, you create the data is created, you need to store it. You need to store it. How the data it will be stored? You can store the data in 3 different methods. You can store the data in 3 different methods. And please, again, if you know another method, 4th one, keep it for yourself. Please keep it for yourself. In CCSP, keep it for yourself. In the CCSP materials, they defined that the data, it will be stored in 3 different ways. Number 1, as a file on a file system. Number 2, on object storage. Number 3, to a database. Any other method, keep it aside, because this, it may lead to lose some questions. Okay? Then, now we defined where the data, it can be stored. This, it's called it DAR. What is DAR? What is DAR?
DRM I have heard. Data at rest. Okay.
Data at rest. This is very important. Data at rest, it is stored in storage, hard disk, whatever. It is not used. Okay. In phase number 1, which is the create, we mentioned that data classification is defined here. What about phase number 2? In phase number 2, redundancy and backup methods. This, it should be defined here in this phase, in the store phase. In the store phase, you have to define the redundancy and the backup methods in the store phase. Okay, this is very important. Again, take care. I am telling you what we can say, the golden tricks of the exam. You know very well the 4 layers, but I want to hear that the first one you defined classification, number 2, backup redundancy, and so on. Then we will come to the third phase, which is use the data. This is called data in use. We have 3 different types of data status. Data at rest, which is stored on the storage or the hard disks. Data in use, it is used by the application. Data in transient, that it is moved from one application to another application or from user to application through a network. When you have 3 different types of data, this is very important. You have to understand it very well because you will find a lot of scenarios, especially the different type of security. You have data at rest, data in transient, data in use. We use, this means that there is an application or user using this data. User application or user uses the data. This phase, it is considered the most chance of compromise or leak of data. In this layer, it is considered, or this phase, I mean, considered the most chance of compromise or leak of the data. Why? Because the data, it's in clear text. You will not be able to encrypt the data. It will not be able to processed by the application or read by the user if it's encrypted or if it's protected or whatever. When the data, it should be very clear, then it can be processed. This is the reason why we are saying in this phase, the data, has the greatest chance of compromise or leak. Why? Because it's unencrypted. It is in unencrypted. It's not encrypted. We have in the store phase, it's already encrypted. We have in create, you create it and you store it in encryption. But here, it is not. Type. And I will not be able to encrypt it. And I will not be able to apply any other controlling method for it or protection. Then what I have to do, you have to take some other methods to protect the data. What is these methods? Number 1, you have to enable the audit and the logging. Then whatever any changes, it will be recorded. You will be able to see whatever any changes. Okay? There is one point, gentlemen, which usually it confuses the trainees between the use and create phases. And this is very important to understand the difference between both of them. In use, the data, it's read-only mode. It's read-only mode. Type. What will happen if I make some changes in this data? Although it is in the application, يعني now I have the application and I change the salary of some specific person from $1,000 into 1,500. The new data, it should be where? In which phase? Use phase or create phase or other phase? What do you think? Still alive?
Yeah, trying to think what is the answer.
Sir, can you repeat your questions once more?
If you make changes for a data, in which phase it should be considered in?
I think changes of the data at rest is the best rather than actually changes
It will
data
be in what? In which phase?
Data at rest.
Data at rest. We don't have a phase called data at rest.
News.
That is store, right?
We have create.
Okay. You're saying from the stages of the data life cycle, create would be the best stage.
Yes, it is in create. That's right. And this is very important to understand. Because now people are saying, how it's in create? It's in use because I am open the application and use it and make changes. Wait, if you make changes, this is modification. You remember here in the create, I told you we have two different definitions. New created data or modified data. Type. Why we are concentrating on this point, gentlemen? Why? Because we want to complicate the things and make exams very difficult, and we want people to fail in the exams. Why we are concentrating on this point? If you change the data, it's not in use, it's in create. Why? What is the point behind this definition?
The reason being that modification usually happens at the create stage, not in the use stage.
Okay, then what is the point? Why? What is important that it is moved into the create, not kept in the use?
Okay, in the use, actually, when you are modifying it on the fly, what will happen? The modification of the data could probably change the classification of the data. So what will happen?
That's right. This is the answer which I want to hear. Because when you change the data, it may change the classification of the data as well. Then it will, the question you will find that he give you a big scenario application, make change, what are the security controls which it should be applied. Then immediately when I think the data is changed, it's modified, it's in create, then this means that data classification should come to the picture immediately. It will tell me backup. No. Backup, it is not here. Backup in the store after that. But now we are in the create. In the create, we have to think about the classification. Okay? When these simple definitions, it will make the difference. Okay. Phase number 4, it will share. The data, it will be shared. It will be available for outside the system. Gentlemen, this is very important, and I was confused also. When I had a look on outside, when I thought that it will be outside the organization. This means that it will be with external users. This is right, but this is not the only definition, because he is saying the system, when it's outside the storage, it may be with a user who is inside the organization as well. Then what he want to say that the data, it will be started to share when it's not on the storage right now. It is not in the storage which, when it was created, when we store it on the storage. Now this data, it can be with a user, with a partner, with a customer. He may be inside or outside. Oh, we have a problem here. What is the problem? If the data, it's under my control in the storage, I can have IPsec, encryption, and so on. But how can I protect a data which I don't have a control over it? Yani I have this file for the salaries, and the manager, he has this file on his PC, and he took his PC or notebook, into home. How can I protect? In these methods, gentlemen, we can use another technologies rather than encryptions and all these things. What are these technologies? You have DLP and RM and rights management. DLP, of course, data loss prevention and rights management. We will speak about this a lot in the next few slides, and we will explain it in more details. The right management and data loss prevention. But take care, this is very important, because these two techniques are not used to protect the data in the store. In the store, it will be different techniques. It may be IPsec. Data at rest, it will be considered by IPsec. It will be considered protection using IPsec, not by use the DLP or the right management. This it will be only used for the shared data, which may be inside or outside the network. Okay. Phase number 5, it will be the archive, data archive. Archive here, usually it is long.
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question. See, you used actually IPsec is used actually at the store phase. But I think the way I understood it is probably IPsec is actually a kind of a framework in communicating from one system to the another system. So I'm not able to understand in a store.
No. IPsec, it's not communicating between systems. IPsec, it's encryption framework.
No, so I'm not able to understand, because when the data is at rest, the only way in which the data can be protected is only encryption. So how can IPsec also be involved there?
IPsec, it is the method of doing the encryption.
Okay.
IPsec, it is the method or the algorithm, it's making the encryption. We are doing encryption by IPsec.
Okay.
Which is running on the layer 3 network. Layer 3, network layer, yeah.
Okay.
Archive. When the archive, it will be that the data is not used anymore. And in this case, it will be moving from the production server or environment. Let's say environment server, it's not accurate word. Into the archive. I don't know if you see any archive, gentlemen. The archive, usually you will see it when you are using email or if you are using enterprise content management. For example, email. In the email, you may have quota 5 GB. Whatever any data over the 5 GB, all the email, it will be migrated into other hard disks. These hard disks or storage, it will be cheaper one, it will be slow, it may not have redundancy and all this stuff. Yani it is not high-end model, it's a low-end model. And if you read one of the emails stored on this archive storage, it is easy. You can double click on it. When the application, it will go to this storage, should read it. Of course, it will take long time compared with the data which is hosted as production, but still it is there and you will be able to access it, and this it will be very nice for the issues of backup and all this stuff. Then this is what we call it archive. Then this means that the data, it will be moved into lower storage tier. And this is usually also it can be used for disaster recovery. Also, it can be used for disaster recovery. Okay. There is important point here, gentlemen, for how long you have to keep this data. For how long you have to keep this data.
It depends on the, I mean to say, the regulatory guidance.
You are right. It depends upon the regulation and the territory which you are live in. If you are in America, in Europe, in MEA, in whatever, then this means that it depends upon the regulations, laws and regulations. Okay. Last phase, it is the destroy. You don't need this data anymore, and you have to destroy it. For example, as a private data. Private data, if you are dealing with customers and you have their private data, you can keep it for a specific time, and after that, it should be erased. It should be totally erased by law. By law. And for example, GDPR, I remember it was 3 years. I'm not sure about this number, but I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so. And of course, as we mentioned in module number 1, that we have two main methods for destroying data. In the cloud, it is the overwriting and the cryptography. It's overwriting and cryptography. There is another point which is very important, gentlemen, and I found that it represents a problem for most of the standards when we are making auditing. When we are saying data, it should be destroyed after 3 years, this means that all type of data, including archived data. This is very important for your life, for the exam, for everything. Yani, in some situations, when we'll do the implementation of ISO, I ask, did you delete the data? So, yeah, we deleted. Look at the server here. We have the data which is graded onto since 3 years. Okay, that's fine. Show me the backup tapes. What? Backup tapes. Show me the backup tapes. I want to read dates. When I open the journal of the backup tapes, I find the data since 4 or 6 or 8 years. This it will be a crisis because the external auditor, you want to see that or ensure that this data, it will be deleted as well. And if you are in a country which we have legalization laws and penalties, you will be subject for a penalty because you did not delete this. Okay. Any questions related to the data life cycle phases?
Sir, one question here. On the data deletion, especially on the destroy phase, what are the data deletion techniques used in the destroy phase?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
In the destroy phase, you had mentioned that I think the data has to be deleted. So what are the various data deletion techniques used in the destroy phase?
It is exactly the same as we defined in module number 1.
Okay, okay.
Other questions?
No, I got a little confused. So which scenario we have to recommend it has to be destroyed or archived? Is that any
Scenario?
guidelines from?
I don't have scenarios and I don't have here recommendations.
Okay.
Here there is no recommendations. Here it depends upon regulations.
Okay.
It depends upon regulations. Why you are doing archive? You are doing archive because you don't want to keep all the data online or in production mode. When if you want today, our data it's 1 terabyte. Next year it will be 2 terabyte. Next year, year after it will be 3 terabyte. When if you want to make a backup first year, you are backup 1 tera. Second year backup 2 tera. Third year you backup 3 tera. This it will be a crisis. You will not be able to move like that. This number 1. Number 2, again the performance. If you are searching for specific data in 3 terabyte database, this it will be a crisis. It will be very slow. After some time, when the size of the data increased, this it will represent a problem in the backup. It will represent a problem in performance and the management of the data itself. And it will reach to some level where the application it will not be able to browse the full data. Then we recommend to make the archive. This archive that we will say, okay, whatever any data older than 3 years, it will move into the archive. Then actually the production server, it will see only the data which is less than 3 years old. Whatever any data, other data, it's required, it can be retrieved from the server. It can be retrieved on the server from the server, but from a different storage. When we are saying destroy, here it is not a scenario. Destroy here, it depends upon the regulations. You may have a regulation that the data, it should be available for 5 years only. And this means that you have to delete the data. If your country does not have any regulations and you want to leave it, it's okay, just leave it. We don't have any problem. But if your country, it has a regulation or you want to be ISO 27001 standard or whatever, then this means that the destroy phase, it will be important. Okay?
Got it. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Okay, we will speak about other topic here, gentlemen. It is very important, called data dispersion. Data dispersion is very important. It is very important in the cloud. If we are speaking about cloud service, about on-prem, life, it will be very easy. Life, it will be very easy on-prem. Why? Because I know the border of my database. I have 5 storage, with 2 storage in the production data center. I may have additional data center, and I know exactly where is my data. In the cloud, unfortunately, this is not the scenario. We have a data dispersion. It can be based on the cloud service provider operations, because he's saying, okay, I have one production data center here, but I want to keep another data center as a backup. Then if this one fell down, the other one, it will take over. Then all the data, it should be replicated between these 2 data centers. And in some situation, it may be replicated between more than 2 data centers. Then the problem here, when we are saying the data phases, created, stored, so and so, this is something tangible, which I feel it. I store the data in this hard disk or here or there. But in the cloud, this is not the scenario. This is not a scenario, and this it will be a real challenge for certifications. For example, in some standards, we are saying you have to define where is the data and who is the owner and which server this data is reside on. Then we will be able to know each location, who is the owner, who is the custody, and everything. But unfortunately, after 5 or 10 minutes, this data, it may not be available here at all. And you will find that it is migrated on another VM, or maybe on migrated another data center, and so on. Then this it will be, this is the real challenge which we have it in our cloud infrastructure. Okay. I think I have another module, but unfortunately the time, it will not be enough to complete this topic. It will take some time. Then I think it will be better to hold on here, and tomorrow we will continue. Do you have any questions regarding today's session?
Sir, I think on the last topic which you took on the data dispersion, I think it would be good. I think tomorrow, if you start with, I mean to say, there is a confusion for me in terms of data sharding, data chunking, and data dispersion. Are these 2 methods actually a part of data dispersion, data chunking and data splitting? And there is one method called as data sharding. Data sharding or data shredding?
You mean shredding, data shredding?
No, it is called data chunking, then data splitting, and then data sharding. I think. Let me.
From where did you get these concepts?
It is in CBK. 1 second. Data sharding, I think is. Let me. Yeah. Data sharding. SHARD. SHARDING. I'm just typing it actually.
Shredding. Data shredding.
No. It is not shredding. It is sharding. SHARDING. Data chunking.
Like 1 minute. I want to check something.
Splitting. Because, sir, I got a question actually. Sorry, just breaking the NDA here. I got a question actually in my last attempt on data sharding. So there was I think 1 or 2 questions on these concepts, which were trying to very much confuse sharding, chunking, splitting, data dispersion, and others. I do not know whether it was a beta question or not.
Unfortunately, I cannot find this in the CCSP material, and this is the reason why I'm a little bit confused. Anyway, okay, let me capture this as a print screen, and I will try to check it to make sure that is it available in other because I have the material, and the material we don't have this question, or I mean this definition. Anyway, I will check it, but it may, I'm not sure, it may, what we say, beta questions, but I don't want to say that. Let me check it first till tomorrow, and I will reply.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? And by the way, data depression, it's not related to these definitions at all. Data depression, it's not depression means that it is in different locations. When these three definitions are totally different. This is splitting the data or reshading or whatever. It's not related to this one. Anyway, let me check it, and I will give you the answer. Okay, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time, and hope to see you tomorrow, inshallah. Thank you.